The 1-2 Football Podcast. The voices of tomorrow, here today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 1-2 Football Podcast. I'm Nathan, and today we are looking back on our Premier League predictions as well as reviewing last week's action. As usual, I'm here with Ollie and Kieran. How are you guys?
Yeah, I'm good. Premier League it seems like it's been on, in my opinion, for more than one weekend now, because so many games have happened, so many goals have happened, that it just feels like it's been, and also the Euros, it feels like football never stopped. So for me, it doesn't feel like it's only just been the first week, but, I'm good, and hopefully I can actually watch the Man United game this weekend, because I'll have, TV and Sky.
Kieran, huge win on the weekend for Spurs. I bet you didn't expect that.
I was buzzing at that, but to say I didn't expect it. There was a part of me that was quite optimistic about us winning that game, and also the fact that City at home to Spurs the last few years has gone our way considerably a lot of times. So I just felt like that was a brilliant performance, and to go from not very optimistic with everything that was happening, 15th choice manager and all that, to now feeling pretty optimistic. I'm not going to get ahead of myself though, because the top four is pretty, as we'll probably get into, pretty set in my mind.
We've all done our Premier League. We did this before, we did this last week, but obviously we weren't together at the time. Ollie was in Cornwall, I think, so there was no chance for podcast. We've put together our 20 places. We've also got top scorer, most assists, first sack and player of the year. We'll get to that towards the end. But we might as well just start off. I'm pretty sure we've probably all got the same team at first. I'd like to probably assume we do, but it wasn't the best start for them. I'll kick off. My first place team, Manchester City. I know they lost. They lost on Sunday, but it's just, look at their team. You can't look past it.
I haven't got them as number one. They're not my number one, but they are my number two. But they have got an insane team. The team is so good, but yet, for me, it's just a bit weird. I don't understand. I'm just going to start off with, I don't know why Ake's been starting at centre-back over Stones. Maybe it's because he's tired from the Euros, something like that. I don't know. But for me, I don't know if maybe, Pep's getting a bit undone. He's been there for a couple of seasons now. People are understanding how he plays and stuff like that, or they can find a better way to counter, or other teams just getting better. But City are a weird one. They just look so off of that at the minute. I know they played quite a weak and young team against Leicester in the Community Shield, but they just look a bit off it for me. And I did this before before most of these games were played. I did this quite a long while back actually, and I did it based off, I got Chelsea number one. I did it based off the fact that, they got Lukaku, they won the Champions League, they did all this. And they hadn't got Lukaku when I did it, but I thought they would do, or get someone like that, like Haaland. So Chelsea are my number one, but back to Man City, they're my number two, but they're a credible team, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did win.
I've gone for them top two as well, but I've agreed with Ollie. The biggest deciding factor for me is I looked at both of those teams, and this got exposed, I thought, massively for City at the weekend, is they don't have a striker who will be in the box and who can finish those kind of chances they were creating. Chelsea have now got that in Lukaku, and I think that if Tuchel can find the consistency to keep that team going, I don't see why they wouldn't win the league. I think if anything, they've probably got maybe, on the whole, as a whole team, a better squad depth than Man City do. You've got Chalobah coming in for the first game of the season, not looking out of place at all. You've got Azpilicueta, Reece James, Thiago Silva, all still to come back. And there was a Chelsea friendly I saw against Weymouth, where they won, I think, 13-0. And it was, as you'd expect, but it was a lot of fringe players. But you look at the players in there, and all of them are Premier League caliber players, and you think they wouldn't go amiss slotting straight into the Chelsea starting lineup. And now they've got Lukaku. I don't think you can look past them. Lukaku has got unfinished business in the Premier League, and after the seasons he's had at Inter and the Euros, where Belgium didn't do as well as people probably expected them to, but he still scored goals, and that's exactly what he is. He's a goal scorer, and I think if you add that into the creativity of Mount, Ziyech, Havertz, Werner playing with Jorginho, Kovacic, Kante all in behind, I just see them running away with it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I've realised I've slept on Chelsea pretty badly on my one. Because second, I've gone a little hopeful, a little optimistic. I've put Liverpool in second. I think the defensive depth there now is so much better. I think with Van Dijk, you have to understand with Liverpool with Van Dijk and Fabinho fit, different team. And I think that this could be a really good season. Now, we do have a slight problem, which is called the Africa Cup of Nations, which is going to take away like all our attackers. But I mean, it's a time for Jota and Firmino to step up. I think if we can get one more attacker, then we're genuinely in for quite a good season. And I'd actually like to think that we are probably a little bit underestimated at the minute. And I think that's when we work best, is when the expectations are low and no one expects anything. You know, we crept up to third place without any centre backs last season, and now we've got centre backs. We've got a defence back. Trent's hit form again. I know, not quite. Well, he is fit. He is playing. But yeah, he hit form again last season, and I know Robertson's out, but Tsimikas has seemed way more settled in. And I'll be honest, it is hopeful. It is like more than just kind of like, I kind of hope this happens. But I really think it's going to be razor close between the top four this year. I don't think no one's going to run away with it. And I think Liverpool are going to be in the conversation. I've put Chelsea third, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if any of the top four win the Premier League this year.
I can't believe you've overlooked Chelsea for the top two there. My last word on Chelsea is I just think they're such a well-drilled team. Since Tuchel's come in, I mean, I think, and also I put Chelsea over Man City based on the fact they won the Champions League and beat Man City. I think I couldn't really decide, so I thought they beat them, I'm going to put them up there. They're just so well drilled, and I think that's kind of crazy. I think they're more well drilled than a Pep Guardiola side, and that's hard to do. And so, I mean, that's why I've done it. But Liverpool, they're my third place. You know, it was hard. It was Man U, Liverpool. Who do I do? And I don't know. But I'm hoping if I lower my expectations, I'll be in for a better season. So I'm going to put fourth. Although I think if Man United do finish fourth with the signings they're making, Ollie could be under some serious pressure. But I have put Liverpool in third place. I can't overlook the fact they have Van Dijk back, and look what he did when they won the league and everything like that. And they have such a good team. I mean, I said to you guys the other day in the group chat, their defence is so good. It's so strong. It's probably the best defence in my eyes, or one of the at least up there. If Chelsea get Koundé, then they can definitely rival that. But that Liverpool defence is so good. And the attack, yes, okay, they didn't all hit form last season. Mane was below par, Firmino was blah, blah, blah. But Jota, Salah and Mane is a lethal front three. And it's just a great, great team. And I'm going to say it again, that midfield is the only part that worries me. And that's why I've got them third, maybe fourth, depending on where Man United do and stuff like that. But for me, that is an incredible team. Can't rival Man City or Chelsea for me, but a very, very good team.
Yeah, I've actually disagreed because I've put United in third and Liverpool in fourth. I just think, as Nathan said, the Africa Cup of Nations probably could disrupt the season ever so slightly. And I look at the signings as well that United have made. Two fantastic players. Champions League Varane, as he's been called. Next to Maguire, who's just come into his own in the last season as well, I just think is, probably impenetrable. But just to speak of it as well, you look at Lindelof's probably worrying that, he's going to lose his place. So he just puts in a brilliant performance at the weekend. So when you've got players who are fighting out for competition and places, that's when you're going to get the best out of them. And I think if Bruno and Pogba hit form and build that relationship that they clearly already have together, I mean, I would put United down as probably top scorers if they really, really liven that relationship up. And, that was without Sancho, Rashford and Cavani, who, when you think about it, you'd probably argue that could be the front three. So I just think in that respect that United will pit Liverpool to it. I think in terms of points tallies, I would expect Chelsea and City to be right up there in the 90s. Probably, only a few points off each other. And then maybe a slight between then Liverpool and Man United, who will be, kind of 2 points off each other. But I mean, as Nathan said, I think any of these four teams could finish in any of these four places. And you necessarily wouldn't be surprised. It all depends now on really injuries and who hits form and what happens there. But I just think that United coming off, last season, which ultimately maybe was disappointing after losing the Europa League final, they've invested into players who want to play for the club. and are brilliant players at that. So I just think that United will finish third and probably win the trophy.
You get me so hyped when you were saying all that. I was just drooling. I was Pogba, Fernandes, Varane, Maguire. Oh my God. It is a great time to be a Man United fan. I'm not going to lie to you. And I kind of do want to say, we're definitely going to be in that hunt for the title. But I just want to, I think I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. I think maybe you were a bit with Spurs, going, what, I'm so optimistic now, but I'm very optimistic. You look at that team and on paper, you probably say, a couple of years back, that's a title-winning team. And I think it's just goes to show you the strength of all the teams in the Premier League this season. And I know everyone's been saying it for every single season in the past, this is going to be the best season yet, this is going to be the closest season yet. But this really will be, in my eyes, the closest season yet. And I think we said that last season, but the Man United team does look very, very strong. World Cup winner in Varane next to Maguire. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of sad for Lindelof because at the back end of last season, he did really well, I thought. Euros, he had a fairly strong Euros. And, he's came in, and I'm not going to lie, the thing with Lindelof recently is his passing ability has been exceptional. I'm pretty sure he did after Cruz did a really good one in the Champions League, I'm pretty sure Lindelof did one a couple days later. And everyone was like, if Cruz, whatever Cruz can do, Lindelof can do better. And Lindelof did another great pass on the weekend that Pogba would have been happy to do. He did do very well in that game as well. But, Lindelof's pass was amazing as well. So it's going to be great. And it's really weird to say now, but Man United's defence is probably one of the, I don't know if it's hard. I was going to say one of the better areas, but then you've got Pogba and Fernandes in the midfield. You've got Sancho, Rashford, Cavani up front. It's a dream team. I'm very excited.
I think United. I think all four of those teams have to challenge. I really do. I think it's going to be. I think 7 points are going to be in it. That's my sort of estimation. And if City beat Liverpool or City beat Man United, City beat Chelsea, whatever, then they'll go clear. Or Chelsea do the same thing and go clear. But I think it's going to be really tight. And all the expectation, all these teams. I'd say possibly Liverpool, the only team that might get away with not challenging just because of the lack of investment over the summer. So people are like, well, this is what do you expect? But I still think Liverpool should be up there. And I also think, if Man United don't challenge for this league this year and they're off it by 10 points, I think Ole has to go. I mean, that's a conversation we'll have further on, depending on what happens. I mean, judging off Saturday, it looks like they'll definitely be challenging. I mean, I think they are Leeds' kryptonite with the way they play, because Leeds just cannot do anything against Man United. I didn't watch the game. I was in London watching Exeter have a disaster class against Leyton Orient, but I saw the highlights and it wasn't good from Leeds.
Let's not get too excited about ourselves. We smashed them last season and we didn't win the league. And we didn't smash them as much this season, but it was first game of the season. But it was a great start. But I just want to chip in there and say, I know a lot of people are mixed over Ole, but for me, you just can't. Yeah, okay. He's just not got the world-class name to go with him. He got a world-class name, but in managerial side of it, he's not got that, backing and, the history behind him. But what he's doing at Man United, if people can say they haven't seen much of a change, then they're absolutely ludicrous and crazy. The change in the team, the change in our tactics, the mentality mostly is just 10 times above, 100 times above what it was under any of the managers since Sir Alex Ferguson. So, like you say, it's a different discussion. But for me, Ole's doing great. But yeah. If he doesn't win a title,
I think he needs to secure a trophy.
That's the thing. That's great, but it's not a trophy. I understand, and I've seen the development of that team, and it's great, and the mentality and everything. What he's building is going to take time. I understand that, but you need to start delivering some results, even if it's literally the EFL Cup. A trophy is a trophy at the end of the day. And if he'd have won the Europa League last season, that's a massive statement. I just think that you do need something eventually.
If we keep Ole, we're probably going to win a trophy. If not probably this season, but if not this season, next season. If we don't win anything this season and we sack Ole and bring in a new manager, I don't think that new manager will win a trophy straight away. And I think within the time that the manager gets settled, Ole would have won something. So I understand that trophies, are what give that manager, the sort of, the pedestal that they are on. But for me, give Ole the time. And yeah, he has had time, but every manager needs time. I know it's different generation, decades later, but Sir Alex didn't have a great start. Ole's not had the best start, and he's slowly coming into his own. And for me, it's a matter of time. You're saying trophies. I'm just here. I'm going to say that's not going to be an issue soon because, I trust Ole. Ole's at the wheel, and I'm happy.
Tell that to Thomas Tuchel, someone who won the Champions League after being at a club for 4 months. If you bring in someone like that.
Yeah, but
you never know.
Chelsea have a really weird thing. They bring a manager and they do really well and they drop off. I don't think that's going to happen this season because I've got them to win the title. But yeah, he's a great manager as well.
So moving down to the other European competitions, Europa League and the Conference League, which is 7th to get Conference League, isn't it? Is that how
I
it
have
works?
no clue. I don't have a clue about that tournament. I'm not going to lie. I didn't even realise it was a thing until a couple of weeks
I
ago.
believe so.
Yeah, 7th, I think. And
I think
obviously
it's
Tottenham in
so
that
like the trophy and
Thursday. I think it should be. I don't like it for like TV, but I think if you're a fan and you go to games, I think it's cool. Like if you're able to get to the games and be able to travel to new places. But obviously, it's not the most thrilling competition in the world. It's definitely Europa League would take
I'd rather
precedent
not
even over
been in
that.
it.
Yeah, but I mean, Europe's Europe. Chance to win a trophy, you can't really turn that
Yeah,
down.
I
as a
know.
Spurs
Yeah,
fan.
I suppose.
I just think it's a bit pointless. I think, you know,
I mean, most of the things UEFA do are
you've
pretty
actually
pointless.
got a piece coming out on the side. Maybe when this is out, actually, because obviously it goes out a couple of days later. That's going to be looking into, you know, this new league and stuff like that. And if it takes away from, you know, the current formats of the Champions League and the Europa League, and I think it really does. And you know, that's a different question, like I said. But that article is coming out, and it will be an interesting read.
Yeah, but I've gone and looking back on the opening day, and I will touch on it. These predictions are like howlers. Apart from fifth I've got Leicester. Because Leicester always finish 5th. There's no point even trying to debate. Leicester always finish 5th. They'll be 4th for some point in this season. They'll probably be in the title race. Then they'll finish 5th. But I watched the Wolves game and they shouldn't have won that game. I thought Wolves really should have at least got a point from that one. I saw Adama Traore had, you know, some sitters, an opportunity to square the ball where he just decided to shoot, I'm pretty sure, to whoever was playing up front, Jimenez, whatever. But yeah, Leicester will probably be 5th. They've done some great recruitment. Brendan Rodgers is a very consistent manager. I like them. 6th. Arsenal. Yeah, not good. Not good.
No. See yourself out. See yourself out.
In 2021, Arsenal were the second best team in the Premier League in terms of points taken. So I thought they're going to be on it this year. You know, they've had another year to develop. They had a really good end to the season in terms of the points tally. As I say, that only Man City got more points than they did. But yeah, it's not good. It didn't look good. It didn't look good on Friday. They looked terrible against Brentford. Brentford absolutely worked them. And they look so void of creativity. I mean, I won't talk about X too much, but it's like watching how City are playing. It's to the left back, to Tierney, cross it in, no one gets on it, and do it again. So, I mean, Arsenal needs serious improvements. Apparently, Aubameyang's been not very good in pre-season. He's ill at the minute. I don't think he's going to play against Chelsea. I think they're going to be in for a bit of a hiding against Chelsea. But if they can, you know, somehow... The thing is, I was actually quite excited when I saw the Arsenal team. I was like, all these young players, exciting players, Martinelli, Smith Rowe. I mean, Saka was on the bench, but you have Balogun as well. All these players were, you know, big potential prospects, but they just look so poor. And they don't ever change the way. It's always very slow. And then just the lack of creativity. I don't know what they were thinking with the constant crosses. Maybe they just got a bit like panicked and were kind of just, right, we'll just do this. But yeah, so they weren't good enough. I mean, we'll touch on that in a little bit. And then 7th, I've got for the Conference League, I've got Aston Villa. And again, I mean, probably the shock of the opening day when Watford, when I saw they were 2-0 up, I couldn't believe it. And then obviously to secure a 3-2 win, probably maybe flatters Aston Villa a bit because Watford were excellent.
I mean, I'll get to Arsenal quite a bit later.
Eventually.
In my predictions. And I'll start my team, you know, 5th and 7th are identical. I've got Leicester and I've got Villa both there. Leicester, you just can't abide. You know, they beat Man City. Yeah, it was a weakened Man City in the Community Shield, but they still beat Man City. And they're a team which always is a threat. I think, in my opinion, and I mean, I've put Leicester just behind this top 4, so it makes sense. I think if I'm a Man United fan, I'm more nervous to come up against Leicester than I would be to come up against someone like Arsenal. Because Leicester are just such...
I've been for years.
Yeah, but I was going to say Spurs, but I just didn't want to upset you. But just Leicester are just a very, very good team. And they're a team, to be fair, which every single season can put up a title challenge for, you know, large parts of it, and then they come to the end and they just bottle it. But... I mean, they've won more recent than Man United. I can't really talk too much there. But
won a trophy last season.
Oh, shut up. When did you last win a trophy?
Why are you bringing that up? There's literally no need for it.
But yeah, no, Leicester are my team in 5th. Like you said, they love 5th. They love it nearly more than, you know, Arsenal sort of loved 4th. And now, you know, they've lost that. But yeah, so Leicester are my team in 5th. Spurs are my 6th team. And, you know, and I'm kind of feeling confident. I'm feeling confident that I've actually put them there after the first time. And I know the whole thing of Kane, and I thought Kane was probably going to leave when I put them in 6th. But for me, Tottenham, I think, are going to do well, even if they don't have Kane. I said when he was appointed, I think Nuno's a great appointment. I think he did great at Wolves. I think he's going to do really well at Spurs. And I'm happy to see that, he got off to a really good start. And, they have got good players. They've obviously brought in a strong new defence and they're still looking to improve that defence. I think their last link was Zuma. So, they're linked with a lot of players, but, they've got a strong team and Son is one of the most underrated players for me. And that's why I've got them in 6th and then Villa in 7th. But Villa are worrying me. I'm sure, it's been one game. Let's not panic like me and my fantasy team. But, Villa...
No, you are. You're firmly panicking for that.
I'm very panicking for that. But no, anyway, different discussion. But Villa, for me, they had a really good season last year. And I really want them to do well. They're kind of like... If it wasn't Man United, I'm backing Aston Villa because they're just, they've got Watkins, extra boy. But... yeah, they're just worrying me a little bit there, but I'm sure they'll turn it around. Not a lot of new players. It takes a bit of time for a team to come together with so many new signings. So hopefully, it was just a bit of get some dust off of the shoes and come back next week and do a bit better. But yeah, that's my 3. Very similar to yours, Nick, to be honest.
Yeah, talking of very similar, I've literally gone for the exact same as you, Ollie.
What?
I've got Leicester in 5th because, as Nathan said, it's 5th. It's Leicester. I mean, we know what that means. Last few seasons, they finished there. And I'm pretty sure it was on the last day of both the last 2 seasons, they've been pipped by the team going into 4th and them finishing 5th. So, I mean, they're probably going to do it again. Again, they've made some brilliant signings as well. But I just think that they're probably not quite at the level of consistently getting in the top 4 and challenging. Then, obviously, I've got Spurs in 6th. Part of it was optimism because when I did it, it looked like Kane was either going to leave or rot in the reserves. Now, I mean, it looks like he's being integrated into the first team and he's just going to have to get on with it because he signed a contract and his agent's not very smart. But that's not... Can you hear that? Is that...
What was it?
There's a plane going past.
Oh, keep going.
Maybe it's
okay. I thought it was really obvious.
Maybe it's Kane going.
No. But yeah, I've got Spurs in 6th. Like Ollie said, kind of the opposite of how I felt. Just because it had been so long, it was about 70 days till we got a new manager, and it was probably 6th, 7th choice. I'm really happy now. Obviously, that's quite naive of me to say, only because we've beaten the champions. But at the same time, it seems like there's a different kind of mentality in the team. I thought Davinson Sanchez and Eric Dyer were excellent at the weekend, which I don't say very often. Japhet Tanganga is an absolute revelation at right back, considering the problems we've had there since Kieran Trippier's left. Son was brilliant again. Mora was brilliant. Finally, there was some end product there. Bergwijn again just needs the goal to kind of boost his confidence. But I am optimistic, and if we are to be consistent and beat big teams. Because it's not like it was recently against Man City when we've beaten them when they've absolutely pegged us in. But, we've caught them on the counter and things like that. Yes, the goal was on the counter, but, I mean, it's fair to say if you watch the game, we never really looked in that much doubt of conceding. So there's some optimism there, and I do think we'll do well. And then, obviously, I've got Aston Villa in 7th. Not the best start, again. But like what Ollie said, new signings take time to gel. You can't deny the fact that Danny Ings... is a goal scorer. Ollie Watkins is also a goal scorer. Emi Buendia has been brilliant for Norwich for the last few seasons. Leon Bailey has been playing in the Champions League and European, on the big stages for the last few years as well. So there's no doubt that you've got talent in that squad, building off the defence that was strong last season with Dean Smith there as well. Obviously, Grealish is a massive miss. And I do think it may take them some time to recover from that. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Villa, at Villa Park with 35,000 people there, beat some of the teams that we've got going in the top 4. I just think they'll have that knack to beat teams, but then they may struggle against some teams away from home, like Watford, who are probably going to finish below them. But I do still think they'll improve on their finish from last season.
I think it's a huge. Sorry, I'll leave it.
That's right. Last time, Kieran, I think you wrote something about Tottenham winning the league. It didn't age very well. So now we have it on video and audio. Let's actually see if this ages better. But just what after Nathan, once you said what you said, I think Kieran to just say his 8th to 11th, because he just seems to be keep saying whatever I say and being stuck with the bit of rubbish part to say at the end.
Yeah, no. Just quick
on
Villa. Just Spurs quickly. I was very surprised, and I was very excited. I'm very excited by Tanganga and Skip. Those two. I thought Skip was horrible in them first 15 minutes.
Yeah, he was.
But he came into the game and just really looked like he belonged there. He just needs to improve his decision making. But he's only like 21, 22. So he's got time. He's got plenty of years to improve. And Tanganga was absolutely brilliant. But on Villa, I think it's going to be the biggest test of Dean Smith's career. This, because he's had Grealish, and Smith has played a huge part in Grealish's development. But when you have that world-class player, and I know he's probably not fully in charge of transfers, but then you have to replace him and set your team up slightly differently. That's where we're going to see a Villa capable with their big money. They've got, third richest owners in the league. Are they capable with Dean Smith to reach those heights that they want to reach, or is it time? Will it be time maybe to look elsewhere for someone with higher qualification, that higher experience and that more of a winner? I'm backing Dean Smith to do well, but it's going to be a real interesting one to see how this early season form goes. Obviously, only one game, but is Dean Smith the man to lead Villa into Europe and into where they want to be? Be interesting to see. Anyway, Kieran, maybe yeah, 8-10.
Yeah, now this is kind of where it got not a bit difficult, but you do have to think about who signed who and who's in charge of what and things like that. So in 8th, I do still think they'll finish in the top half. I don't think they've quite reached the level of being that bad yet. I have gone for Arsenal in 8th. Same place as last season, I think. I do think Ben White will come good. I just think it will take time. It's going to be difficult for him after going from playing in a back 5 to a back 4. It's easy to say, oh, you're 50 million, you should be able to do that. But that transition, it's never going to be, that easy. I think, surprisingly, Granit Xhaka signing a 1-year extension is actually a really good move on their part once he, gets to be the player that he can be. A bad Xhaka is awful, but a good Xhaka is, up there with some of the best midfielders, I think, in the league. And that's hard for me to say as a Spurs fan. I'm thinking now that Nicolas Pepe really needs to start getting into another gear. He scored and got a fair few assists last season, but a lot of them were in, other competitions other than the Premier League. I think he needs to start delivering on that stage. It's going to be a huge season for Saka, Smith Rowe, Tierney, who I think are probably Arsenal's 3 best players. And if they can bring Odegaard in as well, which looks possible with what's going on at Real Madrid, I think they'll do okay. And I think it will be similar to what happened last season, where their first half of the season is quite poor, but in the second half of the season they step things up and they get some wins. I think Arsenal just need to be able to beat the teams that will finish below them, and I think they'll be okay. I think they'll struggle and be out their depth with a lot of the top 6, which is why I've put them 8th. But I do think that there's surely no way that every single team that is probably going to finish below Arsenal beats them 2-0 at home. They can't. That's the good thing about that Brentford performance, is surely it can't get worse, because that was bad. So I've gone for them in 8th. In 9th, I've gone for the team that probably could have conceded 9 goals on the opening day of the season in Leeds. Although my God, last season with the tactics of playing the way Leeds do, just picked apart by terrible mainstream outlets who don't really have a clue. Personally, in my opinion, what they're talking about, but there we go. I do think at the end of the day, Patrick Bamford's a goal scorer. Having someone like Rafinha, Dallas, Calvin Phillips, I think was probably a massive miss at the weekend. But they've got a very good squad, and they've added to that in areas where they probably needed to as well. Obviously losing Alioski, and I do think they'll do well again. It's going to be a case of, can they kind of sturdy up the ship slightly and stop shipping as many goals, and like with Arsenal, it's going to be a case of, can they beat the teams below them or that will finish around them. Another team that I think will finish around them or below them is Everton. Made a good start to the season, obviously beating Southampton. Some interesting signings, but it seems like they've made sense for the kind of style you want to play. Calvert-Lewin is brilliant in the air, and Andros Townsend with both feet. is a very good crosser of the ball. Same with Damari Gray. It's going to be a big season for Richarlison as well, obviously coming off the back of his gold medal with Brazil. I think he needs to step up and really play a part in it, especially when it looks like James Rodriguez is kind of being frozen out of the team as such. And if they can iron out the defensive mistakes that cost them the goal at the weekend against Southampton, I don't think there's any reason why they can't then try and push for something in Europe. But I do expect they'll finish in 10th.
And then who's your 11th, Kieran? Just quickly.
Am I doing 11th as well?
Yeah, do you want? Yeah, 11th.
I've gone Wolves. Raul Jimenez, isn't it? Another goal scorer. Him being back is absolutely massive. Obviously, losing Nuno for them is huge, but it felt like maybe the right time for the cycle at that club. It kind of felt like it was dwindling ever so slightly, especially with Wolves losing, a lot of their first team players to teams that are just, higher up in the division. That's just kind of how it works sometimes. But I do still think that they have a very talented squad. Obviously, it was difficult with Podence and Neto being injured as well as Jimenez for a large portion of the season. Fabio Silva had a lot on his shoulders, and he just didn't quite deliver. As you'd expect for someone with his lack of experience, kind of at the top level. But they still have a fantastic squad, and if they can work out a system under Bruno, can't remember his last name. Nathan, help me out.
Large.
Yeah, Large. I didn't know how to say it with it. Yeah, Bruno. Yeah, he's a very talented manager, and he's probably got his own ideas. He just needs to implement them on the Wolves team. And like you said, Leicester did well to actually win that game, really, considering what happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if, again, Wolves kind of remain or go back to finishing in those mid-table spots they've kind of been known for since they've been in the Premier League.
And so, Ollie, how many teams has Kieran got that you've got as well, and what's different on your 8th to 11th?
It's quite funny. It's a bit different, but it's not very different. So I'm pretty sure so far it's been identical, apart from Liverpool, Man United do switcheroo. But out of your 4 teams there, I have 3 of the same. So it's pretty similar. And one of the teams is in the same place, and the rest of them aren't. So there's a bit of change.
Okay, I'll take that.
In 8th is the team that you didn't have. So it's the team my highest up in this lot. So in 8th place, I got West Ham. A bit of a weird game. Quite an interesting game, to be fair, for this first game against Newcastle. And against it probably haven't got high expectations necessarily this season. And West Ham did look a bit open at the back. And I think, if you concede that many against Newcastle, it kind of proves that. Even though Newcastle's probably one of their best parts of their team, or is the best part of their team. But this West Ham team, I think, they did really well last season under David Moyes, and they've got players there which just are good players. Antonio up front, all these sort of players, and I just think they're going to have a good season again. I hope I'm not disappointed, because they are quite a fun team to watch. I quite like their style of play, and I quite like their attacking tactics, stuff like that. But yeah, so they're my 8th team. That's the only team that's different, sadly, compared to Kieran's, apart from the order. But yeah, no, West Ham for me. I was surprised that I thought Kieran was going to say it, to be honest. But no, West Ham for me, they're just a good team under David Moyes. I think
with West Ham, and the problem is, because I've got them a little bit lower than 8th, they are in my 8th to 11th. But the problem with West Ham is they didn't recruit very well over the summer, and they're playing in Europe now. They're playing Europa League. They'll be playing Thursday. They're in the groups, I think. So they're playing 6 guaranteed games on a Thursday, and there's just really a complete lack of depth in that team, especially in attack. So the worry is, how it gets with teams, and I'm sure we've all kind of experienced it, especially in Europe, where it's like that can't balance it. You get a good result Thursday and you lose Sunday, you're a bit tired. So I think that might be the only reason why West Ham don't do as well. But I think they've got a good team, they're strong 11 at least. And, perhaps a few of the flaws that weren't there last season, the likes like Craig Dawson might get shown this year, but they're definitely be in for a good season. I think Ben Rama's going to be really good as well. That's one to watch for a great player this season.
Last season, Cresswell really stood out, and he got in the act. Was it his goal? Was it not his goal?
Yeah, it was. It was his
goal. Yeah, okay, just checking there. He got on the act again in the first game of the season, so hopefully he'll have a good season, because he did really well last year, and Antonio and Benrahma, like you said. But below them, in 9th, they have to be somewhere. It is Arsenal. They didn't make my top 8, and I'm so glad I put them there after the first display of the weekend. But all we know is that could be the only loss they get now for the rest of the season. It's not going to be. All right?
I doubt that.
I'll put my house down. I don't have a house, but I'd put my house down on that. But for me, Arteta's not the one. For me, they just, in my opinion, all the other teams above them, and I'm including Villa and stuff like this, they all have a backup plan when things don't go right. Arsenal don't have a backup plan. Things don't go their way. They don't seem to be able to change the game up. They don't seem to have the tactics embedded in them to be able, okay, that's not working, let's do this. And I think that's just where Arteta's not got Arsenal working. They just seem to struggle when they go behind. And if you get a goal against them and you go up, you're probably in for a good shout of winning. I'd love to see the stats of how they've come back from behind. I imagine it's very poor.
I mean, they ever have.
Yeah, I was going to say under Arteta. I think
no, they haven't.
So, I mean, for me, they're going to struggle with that sense. And I think Arteta is probably going to be one of the first managers to get sacked. And, it's a shame. I really thought he was going to do well, guidance under Pep, but just hasn't worked out. I think
it's a horrible first job.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like a Lampard one. He's come in, you expected and you really wanted him to do well, and he just hasn't.
Speak for yourself.
What?
I didn't want him to do well.
Oh, yeah, I did. I thought you speak to yourself, I'm not a manager. I was like, have you seen my FM?
I knew you were going to bring that up.
So Arteta for me is not fit for Arsenal. I'm sure he will do really well, but somewhere else, just not this season for Arsenal, I'm afraid. And yeah, they have a really nice looking team. You've got Saka, you've got Smith Rowe in there. You've got some good players, and I don't understand what's going wrong. And I think maybe if you play Saka, maybe because, he's obviously Euros tied, but if he comes into the starting lineup, they might have a bit more of a flair going forward because he did really well at the Euros. But I think, you look at this team and the good side of it is their youth. And I don't think if your strongest part of your team is your youth, there's going to come a time in season where that lets you down because, they haven't all got that experience. And I think, you need the older heads there. And like you said, Aubameyang's not really been on it. And so, yeah, it's not looking good again for Arsenal in my eyes. But below them are Leeds. In 10th, I think this is the only one we had the exact same. I'm pretty sure you had... Wait.
You had Leeds 9th, didn't you?
Did you have them 9th?
I had Leeds 9th.
Who did you have 10th?
Everton.
Okay, we have none in the same order.
Order.
I've got Leeds in 10th. Now, everyone got really excited about them, and I know they're in a different league to Sheffield United, but I really hope the same doesn't happen to them with the second season syndrome where they just go down. But looking at the team, when you said about the players, Rafinha, Bamford, they have a lot stronger team than Sheffield United did. They're in a much better position from not actually from the goalkeeper. They had a good goalkeeper, but from, up front, they've got people to get goals, and they have a Premier League team, whereas Sheffield United didn't really have that. But, I just think they do need to be wary and careful because you see it a lot, like you did see with Sheffield United, that, they had a great season, they got up, they did really well, and then they got relegated again. So hopefully it doesn't happen, but for me, Leeds cannot be disheartened after the Manchester United thrashing. It's a rivalry, the games are always different. You never know what's going to happen. They got smashed last season and they had a great season. So to be fair, I don't want Leeds fans to get disheartened. I'm sure they're not because it happened last season, but they have a great team. And it's weird. I really, really like their team. Bamford, Rafinha, and then obviously, like you said, Calvin Phillips in midfield. He did great at the Euros. If he can come back in and replicate that, I don't think he's going to be a Leeds player for much longer. So, yeah, Leeds are my team in 10th. And then in 11th is Everton. I was a bit and ahhing because I think their season's either going to be a shock and they're going to do really well, or they're going to do really bad. But saying that, I put them in the middle of the pack. So, I clearly think they're going to do average. So neither of those two. But, yeah, it's a weird one. Like you said, the transfers don't necessarily sparkle, but I think they're necessary transfers, if you know what I mean. The transfers that they're not going to get the fans going, but they're going to do so much work and so they're going to benefit the team so well that it kind of makes up for the non-star. But it's just a bit... If this was the team and this was the manager and this was the transfers happening and you ignore the season prior, it looks decent. But I think because last season, they had such a quality team, and I know, they still got those sort of players there, but the transfer window they had, the manager they had, everything just looked so promising. For it to now be, here with Rafa Benitez and, signing Damari Gray, it's just a bit down from Ancelotti and getting James Rodriguez in, if you know what I mean. So it's a weird one for me. They're a team that have gone from, right at the top, all their fans thinking, this is going to be a really good couple of years ahead, to now being where they are with Benitez and Gray. No disrespect to them, they're my team in 11th. So I've got West Ham, Arsenal, Leeds, and then Everton.
I think Everton are an interesting one. I think Rafa Benitez, I love Rafa Benitez. He can move to Everton. I still love him, but he's very suited to that job in terms of he's quite not very similar to Moyes, but that defence first mentality, which I think will benefit Everton. Their transfers were funny, but I think it was also down to their FFP. They've spent 150 million in the last 3 years to finish in the same place they'll probably finish this season. So it's not really worked, the experiment of spending a ton. So it'd be interesting to see making more systematic signings of sort of players that I'll get a laugh at when I see it, but they will actually work when they play. The likes of Andros Townsend probably will be quite a functional player and did very well under Benitez at Newcastle, so it'll be interesting to see. But they aren't in my 8th to 11th, to be honest. I've got 8th, I've got Spurs. I look back on it, not a great pick at the time. I saw Dyer Sanchez, I thought City were going to win 6-0. Obviously that didn't happen.
This guy's got Spurs in 8th and Chelsea in where? 3rd?
I mean, that's not...
Where are Arsenal? 6th?
6th. But Spurs look all right, to be fair. I think they're going to do quite well. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Kane coming back in the team. I think they'll kind of just mess up in a few games, kind of typical of a team that would finish in 5th, 6th, 7th. They'll have a few games where they should win, they don't win. It is what it is. 9th, Leeds. I think the way Leeds play is, as mentioned, they got absolutely thrashed on Saturday. But the way they play, they'll give out some hidings and they'll take some as well. That hopefully, I beg they don't have second season syndrome, because they are probably the most fun team in the Premier League to watch. So I hope that they stay in it for that sake. 10th, West Ham, like I mentioned, in terms of the Europe, I think is the reason it will cost them. I think they'll have a good start, but they'll just end up in 10th because they'll lose a few games while they're playing in Europe. And then Wolves 11th. I was encouraged by their performance against Leicester, and I think they've got a lot to give. A good team. They could realistically, when it comes to these positions, I think anyone from like 9th to 14th could kind of finish anywhere within that. But for me, Wolves are a team that I think should do all right. Not brilliantly, but all right.
Yeah. Should we blitz through the second half then?
Yeah, I think we get from 12th to 16th.
I was going to say,
the relegation.
Why don't we just if we do 12th to 17th, then that's everything but the relegation process.
We want one team to make it interesting. We want one team.
Can we just say 12th to 16th? Just name them. Don't have to go into discussion.
Yeah, just go. Just little one-liners maybe.
Yeah, go on.
Go on, Ollie. You kick us off.
Okay. All right, so I'll carry on where you left off then with Wolves. To be honest, they're my 12th team. Like you said, they're a good team, and anyone in anywhere of this is going to be tight. Just like the top four is going to be tight. I think the middle of the table is going to be tight. Below that's Brentford, my highest promotion team. I've got them quite high. I want them to do really well because I like them as a club. And I said when they got promoted, I wasn't going to get too excited and too hyped by them because they could just, the sort of team that looks really good, but they still go down. They could do that. But I mean, they've given me some reason to be optimistic with their beating of Arsenal. But that's not really hard nowadays, is it? I'd love to see X-City go up against them at the minute. Anyway.
That'd be a terrible game.
There'd be no goals in that game.
Below Brentford, so Brentford are 13th. So, good first season if they can finish there. Below them is Southampton. A team for me I thought they were going to do really well last season, and they just started to die off a little bit. A bit like Everton, to be honest. They started off. You remember when they were in the title hunt or whatever?
Yeah, Everton was really good.
That was a bit.
Southampton.
It was like 5 games in.
Yeah, they were Southampton. They started really well, didn't they? Like tweet out something.
Yeah, they were top. They were top of the league after beating.
I think you were saying about them getting into Europe.
Yeah, I was.
You want them to win the league?
Yeah, I put them really high. Anyway, Southampton are there. That's my Uncle Ray. He's a Southampton supporter. Poor him. Anyway, below them in Newcastle, I was debating putting them a lot lower down than 15th. I mean, you can't be much lower down, but I put them in 15th. And then in 16th, I've got Brighton. They were also very nearly very low down, but they're the sort of teams that just have something. They just pull it out the bag when they need to, and they stay up. And for me, that's why they're there. So yeah,
work out who. Go on, Kieran, fire up.
Okay, so as you mentioned with Europe and West Ham, that's why I've put them 12th as well. I think there's a real lack of depth up front with Antonio's injury record as well. It might not be too good for them with him playing that many games. So I've got them there. I've actually got Crystal Palace in 13th. I just think Wilfried Zaha is probably the best player that you have in the second half of the table on his day. And I think it's going to be a massive season for him. Obviously, new manager coming in, a lot of experienced heads departing, but then they've actually kind of brought in some players who, again, once I think they gel, it was always going to be tough for them opening day of the season against Chelsea. But once they gel, I think they'll be okay. 14th, I've gone for Brighton. Ben White leaving's obviously massive, but I think Maupay and Trossard have enough going for them in an attacking sense to do all right for them, especially with Basuma in midfield. I've then agreed with Ollie and gone for Newcastle in 15th. I think we spoke about this saying that it was a bad team, but then you look at going forward, St. Maximin, Willock, Wilson is brilliant, but the defensive that's where the concern is, as we saw by them shipping 4 goals on the opening day of the season. So I think that could be their downfall, but they'll do still okay. And then I've got Brentford in 16th, expecting them to stay up. I think they will struggle against some teams, but I do expect Ivan Toney to get between 10 to 15 goals, and I think that will be a large reason of why they stay up. The way they play is quite expansive, and we saw that against Arsenal. And I think against some teams it might just be too much. So I would expect them to stay up.
Yeah, for me, I've gone Palace 12th. I'm excited by the transfer business. I thought Gueye was an excellent signing. Elise, it's a shame Eze's not fit, or else they could be one of the more fun teams in the Premier League. So they look interesting at least. Obviously, and will take time to gel too. 13th, Everton. I think they'll just kind of middle around. They could finish at anywhere from 8th to 16th with the way that they'll probably pick up some results, lots of 1-0s, clean sheets, all that kind of stuff. 14th, Brighton. I mean, if they could score goals, they'll probably be in Europe. So we'll see how that goes on. Obviously, the Kings of XG. They're an interesting team, and they're quite fun as well. So I want them to do well. 15th, Burnley. I'm not sure because they've not recruited that well, but they always seem to just have enough about them to stay up. And Sean Dyche is an excellent manager in that regard. And then 16th, Southampton. I'm not that sure on this because I'm not sure how good their team actually is. And some of the defending I saw against Everton was criminal. But we'll have to see whether they can do it. I think Adam Armstrong's a great signing. I think he'll do well in there. But moving on to the relegation zone, the relegation places, there's 4 teams we haven't mentioned.
What teams have we all got left?
I've got Watford, Burnley, Palace and Norwich.
I've got Newcastle, Brentford, Watford and Norwich.
I've got Burnley, Southampton, Norwich and Watford.
Have we all done the same thing and read them in the order going down? Because I didn't. Just gave away my list. We all just did it.
I did.
I did.
Anyway, I can't remember yours, Ollie.
Yeah, I was going to say I read it out and I was like, I've just said that in a list. I should have done that.
Go on, Ollie. Since you give us your list.
I got Watford in 17th, so avoiding the drop. And I'm thinking I should have put them a bit further up after that. After the first game, but like we said, you can't.
I wouldn't get too ahead of yourself, mate.
Get too excited with it, but yeah, no. I mean, they've got quite a few players out injured, I think, attacking wise, and so they played obviously that Dennis guy up front, and he did decent. So I mean, I think it could be a bit of a better season than I put down for them if they can continue doing like how they did on the weekend. Below that, I think it's just it's time for Burnley to stop being at the bottom, and I think they're going to go. I think that they've been fighting there a while, and they are quite good defensively. They stop people, especially like some Man United. We can't break them down, and so that's why I think they've done well. But there comes a time where you just do drop back down, and I think that's going to happen.
Sunderland.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
I don't think Burnley that.
And unlike you guys are saying, it's the complete opposite way around. I've got the same with Crystal Palace. I know they've got Eze, I know they've got Zaha, they've got quality stars in there, but it's such a big change going on there. New manager, so many players being released, a lot of players being brought in. It just takes time to gel, and especially with a manager that's not been in the Premier League as a manager. I think it could be a bad season ahead, or it could be really good, like you guys said. But for me, so many changes going on there that I think they're in for a bad season, and I'm sure if they go down, their second season, they can do really well in the Championship and come straight back up as long as they stick by Vieira. It's Vieira, isn't it? stick by him and they can do well again. But for me, the amount of change, I'm pretty sure it's similar to what Fulham did when they got promoted. They signed so many players, they just didn't click, they didn't gel, and they went straight back down. And it's a very young team as well, I want to say. They signed a lot of young players, and clearly they have that sort of vision. They want to have a young, spine to it, and they want to bring it in with youth players. But for me, I think it's going to work really well in the long run. I just don't think this season's going to be their season. And then bottom of the pack, they like doing it. They like going up and going back down, a bit like Fulham. It's Norwich. And I feel like we could all be having them in the bottom or bottom two at least. So, yeah, Norwich for the bottom of mine. I watched the only game, actually, I think I watched the Premier League I watched Newcastle, West Ham. I watched Liverpool, Norwich, and they just are a championship team, aren't they? And, they've lost players. If they lose Campbell, I think it could go from bad to worse for them. They lost Buendia. And so Pukki, he's been around for ages. I'm surprised he's still their number one striker, because you just look at that team and just don't see it going very well.
Kieran, what's your bottom four?
In 17th, I think they're going to stick around a bit longer. I think they've just got the Premier League know-how. I've got Burnley. Sean Dyche loves Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes, and I do as well, just for their
Chris
pure...
Wood, guaranteed 15 goals, Chris Wood.
Isn't it? It's just what happens. They can defend as well, and the work ethic they have in midfield is very impressive. So I do think that they will stay up. And my 18th team, Ollie, you mentioned about Southampton winning leagues. I think next season they might win the Championship, because I've got Southampton to go down.
Love that one.
I just think... I've had it in my head for like 15 minutes. I just think that they will struggle. Danny Ings got them a lot of points last season. And yeah, Adam Armstrong is a brilliant signing. It's just whether or not he can hit the ground running. Obviously, he has scored since I made these, but I do think, maybe he will struggle. Ironically, has had the opposite effect of Che Adams, where it took him about 20, 25 games to score, and Armstrong scored on his debut. I think losing Vestergaard as well is huge. He was a massive organisational cog in that back line, and I look at it now and I see a lot of players who've got mistakes in them. So I think the impetus on Ward-Prowse this season is going to be huge. But I think just because of that, he plays every minute. I think he will pick up an injury, and maybe a severe one. Not too severe, but enough to keep him out for a few months. So I've got them to go down as well. Obviously, the bottom two is Norwich and Watford. I don't really know maybe which way that this would go, but I just do feel like Norwich maybe have a slightly better team-ish, and they've made some recruitments, at least that I'm aware of, bringing in Rashika from overseas, and Billy Gilmore as well, I think, will hopefully have the kind of skip effect that he had when he went on loan at Norwich last year. Obviously very different to the Championship and Premier League, but Oliver Skipp necessarily hadn't really proven himself at that level yet, whereas I feel like Gilmore has begun to. That performance against Liverpool obviously couldn't replicate that the weekend, but at the Euros when he played as well, he just looks years above what he actually is, and I think he'll play well, but not really do enough to keep them going. And then I've got Watford to finish bottom. I do think maybe their defence will slightly be their undoing. I think they just not got lucky as such, but the goals that they scored, one was deflected, one was a worldie, one was a good finish. So you kind of look at it and kind of everything went their way on that day. And if I'm honest, I think that might be where their season peaks. Maybe they'll get a win over a team kind of in the top six. Nearly top seven was where I've put Aston Villa. But I do think they just don't have enough to stick around.
I'm surprised by that. I looked at the Norwich team and I honestly was gobsmacked they're even in the Premier League. I just don't see much talent there. Whereas with Watford,
they ran away with the Championship.
They won the Championship.
I know they did. But Fulham and them do that all the time. They go straight back down. It doesn't mean anything.
Fulham went through the playoffs.
Yeah, but Watford for me,
Fulham never win that.
Watford have got.
We'll see. No, we'll see.
Yeah, Watford have got stars, got that sort of talent. Put them up. But I'm actually regretting putting Burnley so far down now because they've still got what's his name, Neil out wide or whatever.
Yeah, and they're getting that corner as well, so they're getting another wing. They have two wings.
So Burnley could be my my regret here putting them so low down, but yeah, Watford for me, I think they've got a much better team than Norwich. But I don't really watch Championship football, so
they're both going down in my mind anyway.
No matter what have you got, Nathan?
For me, 17th Newcastle. I think The problem with Newcastle is their attack. They've got, as mentioned, St. Maximin, Wilson, Willett are all excellent players and are very good, probably better than Newcastle are in terms of in the status as a club. The problem is Wilson and St. Maximin, they're two most injury-prone players. So when they're out, you've got Joel Linton and, Jacob Murphy, I think it's Jacob or Josh Murphy. He's quite good, but he's not that level. There's levels to it. And St. Maximin and Wilson are very much a cut above what Newcastle have. Also, whenever you think about Newcastle, you have to factor in Steve Bruce as the manager, so they're never going to do as well as you think. I think the fact they've got Graham Jones might just be enough in their coaching staff. Obviously, when he came in, Newcastle's season got a whole lot better. He was also at England in the Euros, so he's on form in terms of being a good coach. And I think they'll just about have enough to stay up. They might finish a bit higher than 17th, but I think they'll be all right because of Wilson and St. Maximin. And it's a shame with Newcastle because they have everyone says this, but they have the makings of a club that could be consistently top half, but the owner just doesn't want it. The owner doesn't care enough.
In the question of a Newcastle this year, like every year, is will or will they not be sold? So,
Yeah, and hopefully they are, because I think Newcastle being in the top 10 and being a team that gets into Europe would be a great thing for the Premier League. It'd be a great thing for that region, because that region's not had a lot of good football over the years with Sunderland and Newcastle. So hopefully, I root for Newcastle. I hope they can get it sorted out and get a bit better, but they'll just about stay up this year. 18th, Brentford. The win against Arsenal was probably the most unexpected shock win ever. But they give me Norwich vibes. When Norwich beat Man City, we all remember that game. Norwich looked unreal. They also beat Newcastle, and they looked like they were going to stay up and be brilliant. And then they didn't win a game from then on out, or they took so long to win. So I just think with Brentford, the lack of quality may catch them out a little bit. I was really surprised with Canos' performance at left wing back, actually, because I thought he was a weak point of that team, being a predominantly attacking winger that has learnt to play there, but he was absolutely excellent. So I think they actually have the makings to shock me and surprise me, and obviously surprise maybe a whole lot of people, not the people that have put them stay up, but I think they could do really well. And I think Thomas Frank's a great manager.
Me and Kieran think they can do great.
Yeah, I think they'll do all right.
I think Thomas Frank's a great manager, and I think Brentford could be a team that, even if they went down, the way they recruit, they'll be in the Premier League again in the next 3 years, whether they remain there or they have to get promoted back into it. And then, like you, Kieran, I've Watford and Norwich are the teams going down for me. I put Norwich last just because of track record. They're always there, so they'll probably finish there. They're too good for the Championship. They're not good enough for the Premier League. That's unfortunately how it is. Rashik is a great signing. I think Sargent also could be an interesting signing. Can't say I know a lot about him, but I know he's quite a well-regarded prospect. Billy Gilmore, Brandon Williams apparently join in as well. So a lot of decent stuff from Norwich. I just don't think, as usual, they don't have enough. And I like Farke as well. But it is what it is. And Watford, great start to the season, but again, track record and their squad, they've not recruited incredibly well. But we'll have to see with Watford, because Watford are capable of. No one expected them to go down really when they went down. If I'm right, I think they was expected to kind of just middle or around mid-table again, but they went down. So it'll be interesting to see. They've got a good team. Obviously, Ben Foster has a lot of faith in his boys. He thinks he's going to finish 13th. We'll have to see whether he's right or I'm right in saying 19th. But it'll be interesting. Moving on to kind of individual awards and who's going to do the best. We'll start with top goal scorer. I've gone boring. It's not really, you can't really go fun with these. You can't, but I've gone boring. The man that's always there, Mo Salah. I think he's in the top goal scorer just because he always is. And obviously with Kane sort of being very unsettled, I'm not sure whether he'll quite hit the heights that he did last season. So that's who I've gone.
I won't lie to you. I completely forgot we were doing individual awards. But it's not.
It's
not going to be a hard one. I've been thinking since we started it, and I don't really have full of confidence that he will. I think he'll do really well, but I'm going to go for Lukaku. I put them to win the league, and I think if you're going to win the league, you need a good goal scorer. But the thing with me is Chelsea can probably have a few scorers in there if they get Lukaku, because Lukaku just links up play really well, and I think Salah is a great shout. It was going to be Salah or Lukaku for me, but I'm going to go Lukaku. First season back, win the title, golden boot, happy days.
Yeah, I've agreed with one of you. And quite fitting with this podcast is Ollie that I've agreed with. I've gone for Lukaku as well. Obviously, I've got Chelsea to win the league. He's missed one game, but there's still 37 left, and he'll probably play in all of them. And judging by the amount of chances that team creates, what they were missing last season was a consistent, proven goal scorer, and now they've got that. I don't see him not winning the Golden Boot. I think, of course, Salah will be up there, as will a few others. But for me, it will be Lukaku that takes it.
He's got to get it quick, though, hasn't he, before Man United get Haaland, and then it's just game over, and he wins it. So,
moving on to the creators, Ollie. Who's assisting the most?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I feel like we could have a clean sweeper, or Kieran might be on me as well. He's never agreed with me more in his life, to be honest. So this is a surprise. But I'm going to go stick with my boy Bruno Fernandes. He's got. Look at him. We say the clean sweep. He gets goals and he gets assists, and it's what he does. And without him, I think United, would be a lot worse off. Well, not a lot worse off, just worse off. It's not bad, are they? But yeah, for me, he's always there. Maybe Pogba, from the first game.
Yeah, he's got a start.
Bruno for me.
Kieran, I assume you've gone Bruno.
Skip me, mate. I've gone Bruno.
I've gone.
Quite ironic. Sorry, quite ironic that the person that we've gone for the most assists is currently the top scorer at the moment. But nonetheless, I do think he's a very good footballer, isn't he? I could see him quite easily getting 15 kind of goals and assists. I wouldn't be surprised at all. He's just a fantastic footballer.
I've gone, the typical when you think of who's the best playmaker in the Premier League. I've gone Kevin De Bruyne. He'll probably playmake a lot.
That was after.
He'll probably get past. Obviously, I've backed Man City to win the league, so I would like to think that he will do well and assist lots. And if Kane does somehow join City, I mean, what better for De Bruyne than just being able to have someone he can give it to, and he'll probably hold it up, turn, shoot, score, plenty of assists, hopefully. Moving on, so we'll go for the last player award. Who's going to be the player of the year? Who's going to be the best player in the Premier League? Obviously, it was Ruben Diaz last year, I'm pretty sure. Who is going to win that? I'll start because I've gone Kevin De Bruyne. He's very good. He's probably, for me, again, he's the best player in the Premier League. So if Man City do win the league, I assume their best player will be the best player. And Kevin De Bruyne should deliver on that, hopefully.
This is hard. This is a hard one.
And have you got one?
I've got one. Mine's a bit outside, sort of, I think. But I think this player can really... His potential is absolutely limitless. Part of the title-winning team at Chelsea. I don't think it'll be Lukaku, but I think, like Bruno, it'll be someone who's up there with goals and assists, and has really come into his own since Tuchel's been here. Obviously, his countryman. I've gone for Kai Havertz to win Player of the Year. I just think this is going to be a season to prove that price tag. I think he's going to be brilliant under Tuchel, and with Lukaku in front of him. I'd love to know how many times Timo Werner missed an opportunity after being passed the ball by Kai Havertz. And if you take out Werner and put in Lukaku, I just expect him to always score them. He might miss, a few games with the depth they have there and the Champions League and things like that. But I do think that he's going to be a consistent starter and will win Player of the Year.
We haven't gone the same, but we have gone the same club. So, it's kind of in line with what's going on. I was going to say Lukaku, because it normally always goes to a new signing. And I'm sure it will do, because, it's just the way it goes. And I don't think for any reason, I don't think this person's going to win it at all. But I think he should win it. He's had a great couple of months, the Euros, this, that, and that. I'm going to go Jorginho. He's just been exceptional recently, and he's just a player that he doesn't really go under the radar, but if you don't really know football, he goes under the radar. But for me, I think he's going to continue. He's going to win the league. He's going to just continue with his just roaring through all these trophies. I'm going to go with him. I think he's going to be key to Chelsea's team, and I think he can link up with Havertz to then link up with Lukaku. So yeah, I've gone Jorginho. He's just been on form, winning everything. We've looked at all the positives, what players are going to be the best, but which manager is going to be the first out the door? Who's going to get sacked first? What manager is going to struggle? I'll go first. And this could be a horrible take, because obviously they did so well on the weekend. But when you've got Watford in the Premier League, you cannot back anyone to sack the manager first but Watford. For me, I think in the last season in the Championship, they had Vladimir Ivic. He won Manager of the Month and got sacked 2 weeks later. So I think Xisco Munoz is going to be the first one to get sacked, just because Watford will lose like 4 or 5 games. And he'll go, because this is how Watford will operate. I'm going to go with Arteta. I said it earlier. I'm just going to go with Arteta. I put Norwich bottom, but I can't see Norwich sacking the manager, because if you're Norwich, you don't have high expectations. You just got to stick with them if you go up and down. Can't see Patrick Vieira or ever getting sacked, because he's only just been brought in, and he's probably going to get a good philosophy.
Oh, that's a Frank de Boer.
Yeah, but I just can't see it happening. And then I think Watford's going to do better than many people expect. So I'm going to go with Arteta because he's had a fair bit of time there. And I don't think it's going to be very long. It didn't go great last season. If it starts off going a bit, I think the fans are already turning on him, and I'm pretty sure the board will too. So yeah, Arteta for me.
Yeah, I've gone someone different. It suits how my table lines up. I don't think Nathan's made a very good point with the Watford manager there.
You're going to do Southampton?
Huh?
You're going to do Southampton?
Yeah, I do think it will be Ralph Hasenhüttl. Just based on what I think will happen in the league and with everyone leaving, I think that Southampton will reach a stage where they're like, oh, Christ, we're in serious trouble here. And they'll bring in someone who's a bit more of a relegation expert, maybe.
Did that with Mark Hughes, didn't they? I mean, he's not expert, but...
Yeah, someone who will grind you out horrible 1-0s. I don't think Hasenhüttl's style of play is going to fit the players he necessarily has left. Losing Ryan Bertrand, I thought, was massive as well. I just feel like they've lost players and they haven't replaced them. A good 4 or 5 over the last few seasons, and I think Hasenhüttl ultimately is going to pay the price for that this season.
Is he going to be around though for another, what is it, 9-1 has it been or something like that every season or something?
9-0.
That'll probably be the final nail.
Yeah, the third consecutive one.
Man United, go on, another absolute come on. But yeah, interesting.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting season ahead. I think this has all the makings to be, a classic Premier League season with fans back and that energy in the stadium.
Yeah, you just forget that. COVID for me just seems like you've got used to it. So I always forget fans weren't there last season. But yeah, what a great season.
I can't wait. I mean, I think the Saturday evening fixtures. I want to say Watford v Brighton. I'd look at that last year and think, I'll watch the highlights later. I will be tuning into that just because Premier League's back, fans are back. I love football. I'll probably be on my phone for most of the game, but just by the small hope that it's a 3-3, I'll be tuning into it.
He loves it. He loves football. And he loves
I love football and I love it so much.
And that wraps up the 1-2 Football podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Check out our major social media pages and check out the podcast on all big platforms at either 1-2 Football or at 1-2 Football UK. Also, take a look at 12football.com for the latest written pieces from our growing list of contributors around the world. We'll be back next week.